Are you a manager who is eager to change the trajectory of your career? I have spent the last 23 years as a Fortune 50 leader learning from other industry leaders how to break free from limiting beliefs and habits. On the Might in Motion podcast, we focus on the 4 M's: motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. We bring you leaders from Fortune companies, doctors, and entrepreneurs. Their stories of living their own might in motion will inspire you to create your own action plan and achieve your goals. Welcome to Might in Motion. Today's episode of Might in Motion is brought to you by Pantheon FM, Fortunes Magnified. Pantheon FM is changing the world through entrepreneurship. In this community, you will find everything you need to create, amplify, and monetize your world-changing business. Join us at pantheon.community/register/LAUA. On today's episode, I am really stoked to talk to Scott Aaron. He is an expert authority mastermind. He's a best-selling author and a speaker. He specializes in showing entrepreneurs, business coaches, financial service professionals, and service-based professionals who are ready for a real change the skills needed to shift the entire scope of their life by making new decisions that create the outcomes that they truly deserve for their life and for their business. As an award-winning online marketer, 3-time best-selling author, top podcaster, and speaker, he is the go-to specialist when it comes to converting traffic, establishing connections, creating income, and building personal brands on LinkedIn. Fully immersing himself in learning LinkedIn and several social media strategies, he quickly gained traction as a leader in generating big results for other entrepreneurs, online business owners, and financial advisors, financial planners, online marketing professionals, and business coaches. Scott, welcome to Might in Motion.
Well, Mariana, honor and a privilege to be here. I know that's, I guess my bio could be a little bit of a mouthful, but I am grateful to be here. I do a lot of things to serve a lot of people, and looking forward to our conversation.
I am genuinely really energized to be here today because number one, I love your content on LinkedIn. I'm looking at it almost daily, and I like to participate in your surveys because then I see the content. You end up answering questions later on. You really link your surveys with where you're going, and I think that's super interesting. I also love your podcast, especially the conversations you and your wife have. Very, very entertaining. As I mentioned in the green room, I'm actually listening to one of them right now. It's in my rotation for my walks every day, and I just adore it. So you are obviously known as a LinkedIn guru, but you've had an interesting path to get there because you started off right in personal training and nutrition and wellness and all that other stuff. How did you make that progression from that space into being this LinkedIn mastermind?
Yeah, so, I spent 16 years as a, gym owner, personal trainer, sports nutritionist. So started in the industry in 1998 and closed the doors to my final gym. I had 3 in 2016, but started doing some online business consulting back in 2013. It's almost 11 years now. And, it was kind of like that natural progression. So as I was kind of used to that belly to belly, just, rubbing elbows, kind of networking aspects. But I could only grow and scale my business so far, confining myself to the 4 walls that I was surrounded by. And I wanted to, kind of expand outside of that. Social media was a great avenue to do so. And yeah, I kind of dabbled in Facebook and Instagram at the time, but I really found after spending some time on those platforms, which I'm still on, it was more of like my personal side of things. So people that I grew up with, people that I went to overnight camp with in high school and college, and, that I met along the way. It wasn't a business reflection. So I remember signing up for LinkedIn back in 2009. Really had no purpose for it at the time. So my profile had been collecting dust for about 4 years. So I went on there, and I, like many people out there, felt like that LinkedIn was like monster.com, right? You go on there to find a job, or, that's where recruiters are spending most of their time. But when I started spending some time on there towards the end of 2013, early 2014, it was also around the same time that Microsoft had bought the rights to LinkedIn, which means you now had a technology company, an SEO company, a search engine company in charge of this platform. So it kind of changed the scope of being a platform for just getting recruited, or recruiters spending time looking for potential candidates for job applicants, to a social networking platform, a business networking platform. And the way that I like to categorize it is it's a global networking event every single time you log on. So for me, I wanted to, spend more time on an up-leveled platform that had up-leveled people. And for people that didn't know this, LinkedIn is still, to this day, LinkedIn is the only social media platform where every single Fortune 500 company has a presence on there. And I think that says a lot about the platform and the caliber of people that, it attracts to it. And kind of connecting the dots, when I started networking and connecting with more higher caliber people, initially I was just doing online wellness consulting, but I was working with business professionals that, were willing to pay a higher pay grade for my services. And then as I was getting traction and results, I had colleagues of mine within the wellness space asking me, hey, can you teach me what you're doing? And I said, what do you mean teach you what I'm doing? They're like, well, we see what you're doing on there. You're getting results. Obviously, your business is growing. Can I pay you to teach me how to do the same thing? And I'm like, you're going to pay me to show you how to use a social media platform? So I was I was taken back, just because, again, I think when I took a step back from that situation, I realized, I'm like, okay, there's a need for what I'm doing. Meaning, I understand the power, the principles, the techniques, and the strategies of what I'm doing because I created it. But now other people kind of want to get plugged into that scenario so they can achieve the same thing. So that's when a friend suggested, like, you should start coaching people if they want to, if they want you to coach them. You should create some videos. And that was kind of like the birth of me helping other people with LinkedIn. And obviously that was, going on 11 years ago. So it's grown and scaled from there to the point now where I'm actually contracted by Caesars Entertainment, and I'm one of their keynotes that they basically fly around the country to speak to some of their largest accounts on how to use LinkedIn. So it's gotten to the point where I don't consider myself a guru. I mean, other people have, appointed me guru of LinkedIn. I mean, again, I've just figured out the best way to use it organically and strategically, where you're creating business allies and you're focusing on the human connection aspects of business. And the people that align with that, align with my message, align with my content, and eventually they want my help.
I love it. I mean, I too have been in LinkedIn for a long time, being in the corporate America space, as you mentioned, recruiting, researching candidates, posting job opportunities. I've been known to do that too, right? But over the past few years, you definitely see a pivot happening. And I think one of the biggest aha moments for me last year was I was on there. I think I was posting about an opening or something. And I see that Gary Vee went live. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can watch Gary Vee live on LinkedIn versus on Instagram or, Twitter,
YouTube.
now X, whatever the heck we're calling it these days, right? And that was my big aha moment where I'm like, well, if he can do it, then I can go live. And it's been really cool to see that transition in that social media platform, because to your point, Instagram just isn't necessarily the place for getting messages out when it comes to your corporate America presence or your professional presence. Even if you're an entrepreneur, there's a professional aspect to what you do.
Well, people will always try to convince you that, everything happens in the DMs in Instagram, which I think in the 10 years that I've been on there, I've picked up maybe 3 clients in 10 years. So one client every 3.5 years, that's not really a good turnover ratio right there. But you'll have marketers out there saying, oh, everything happens in the DMs on Instagram. And, it's, you have to think about, I think if you were to kind of take a 10,000-foot view of this and you were going to try to see if LinkedIn is the best fit for you, if you just ask yourself this one simple question, it's going to basically answer all the questions and solve all your problems. And that question is, where is my ideal client or my ideal business ally spending their time mostly? And the fact of the matter is that if that answer is LinkedIn, then you've basically answered your own question and you know where you need to be spending the most time.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that have this notion of FOMO where, I have to do all the things on all the platforms and be there all the time. Listen, I believe in being omnipresent, which is basically present on all platforms. Do I post TikToks? Absolutely. Do I do Instagram Reels? Absolutely. Am I on Facebook? Absolutely. But that's not my main driver. The driver of my content actually starts and is facilitated by my LinkedIn content. And then that message is spread to the other platforms to be omnipresent. But all signs lead back to LinkedIn. So the journey that I take people on, if they find me on TikTok, if they find me on Instagram, if they find me on Facebook or YouTube, guess where they're being directed back to? LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
if you know that is going to be the North Star of your business presence and your business visibility, then you should be on all the other platforms, but people should be redirected back to the main hub of what you're doing.
Now, you have coached people, you said that, hey, if they came to you, people were saying, hey, like you should help others. If they want to pay you for that, let them pay you. So you've seen transformations. Obviously, you saw transformations when you owned the 3 fitness clubs, but now you're seeing transformations in people's professional life or in their entrepreneurial space. What's maybe one of the biggest wins or one that's resonated with you the most that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah. So Jeremiah Campbell, who's a good buddy of mine, and he was a one-on-one client. I've actually worked with his company, and he's now in our group coaching mastermind called Expert Authority. So we met in a mastermind. We were in a mastermind together almost 5 years ago, 2019 into 2020. And it was for high achieving entrepreneurs. He owns his company is called Brickworks LLC. So he owns a masonry company in Detroit. So he's a traditional business owner. And he said, listen, he goes, I heard that you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and you coach people. Could you show me how to connect with some ideal business, power partners, but also some ideal clients where I can bid on some more jobs? Because basically his company focuses on both residential and commercial real estate properties. And I said, sure, absolutely. And I would say over an 18-month period from the time that we worked together, over 18 months, up to 2 years, he told me that he generated and accumulated an extra $3 million in revenue just from his efforts on LinkedIn and just by what I taught him of what he should be doing for his business. And I think anyone that hears that and wants to add multiple 7 figures of revenue to their business, again, that's really all you need to hear right there.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing anything fancy. He was trimming the fat and he was streamlining the process of the right types of connections that led to the right type of conversations that led to the right types of conversions in his business. And it's really that simple.
Yeah, that's an amazing story because literally he's brick and mortar.
Yeah.
And see, and it's not necessarily something that I would think traditionally would be in a LinkedIn environment versus, a Fortune 500 company looking to hire top talent, right? And I think that's interesting because now the skill sets, the tools that you've helped enable him are things that are transferable regardless of what your client's main source of income is or business model is, because it's all about making that connections and creating community.
Correct.
Right within LinkedIn.
Yep.
So speaking of that, a lot of times on your podcast and in your posts, you talk about relationships and how important those relationships are on really elevating people to win. What advice might you have for new leaders within organizations to leverage that same type of skill set to be more successful as a leader within their company?
Well, I think it's a one size fits all. Whether you're a new leader in a company or you're running your own business. Andy Crestodina said it best. He was on our podcast last week. He said, if you're not making friends, you're not in business. And I think that's the big thing, is that no one wants to be sold to, no one wants to be pitched to. So whether you're the leader of an organization or you're leading your own organization, you need to be forming these friendships in business. I think this is a lost art of something that is one of those determining factors of someone succeeding in business to failing in business. An army of two is twice as strong as an army of one. I think a lot of business professionals and entrepreneurs get into this mindset that I need to have this tunnel vision. I need to go it alone. And I always go back to one of our favorite books, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. This book was written in 1911. And, he talks about the fact that instead of living in a world of competition and comparison, live in a world of creation and collaboration. So if you look at any of the great minds, any of the great business owners out there, you can take any successful person. So anyone that's listening to this that's in the corporate world, and there's someone that you look up to from a leadership standpoint or a business owner standpoint, and you got them into a room, I guarantee you they would have some influential figure in that person's life that has driven them and motivated them to get them to where they are. And I guarantee you there's a personal connection there. If you look at any great mentor, any great person, always, as much as they are a teacher, they're always a student. And I think this is the one thing that leaders, that is a responsibility that we have. If you think you know everything, you actually know nothing. Because the big thing is, as a leader, as a role model, as someone that is in a position where others are looking up to you, it's your due diligence to make sure that you are still stretching for your goals, reaching for the top. And, again, realizing that the valley of one mountain and the peak of one mountain is the valley of the next. So you always have to be moving forward. You always have to be learning, always have to be growing, because that's what comes with the territory of being a leader. I wouldn't be in the leadership position I would be in. I didn't ask for this. It just kind of happened and people kind of positioned me in it. But I have a responsibility now. Just to your point, I'm glad that you picked up on that, because every single LinkedIn poll I put out there is not asking people how they take their coffee, or not asking them when they put up their Christmas tree, before or after Thanksgiving. I actually ask meaningful questions that relate to business. And then if people really notice that correlation, when I ask a question on LinkedIn, you can bet that either the next day or a couple of days later, I'm either writing an article giving you the answer to that pain point, or I'm doing a LinkedIn live training on how to overcome that specific pain point in your business.
I love that. I mean, like I mentioned, I definitely have noticed the trend. And I know if I answer a question, I'm going to make sure I tune in to what Scott's going to say in the next few days, because then I'll learn more about either the thing I didn't know anything about, or I wanted to learn more about, something that I had been using, but maybe not to its fullest.
Right.
And you just mentioned mentorship and having people in your circle that you look up to that can help you as an individual grow. Who has been one of those people in your past that really had that positive impact on you, and why?
Well, first and foremost, my wife. She, obviously she's not only my partner in life, but she's my partner in business. We own and run our company together. And, if she was on here, we would both agree that we both would not be where we are personally and professionally without one another. We combined, where we kind of like have this Captain Planet type superpower where, we've joined forces, and, my strengths are her weaknesses and vice versa. So over the last, nearly 7 years of being together, it's been instrumental in getting us to where we were to where we are now. And if I would rewind the tape way, way, way back when, obviously my father was a huge influence and inspiration for me. got me into the fitness industry. And then I would say, as far as getting into the coaching side of things, my first business coach, Jeffrey Combs, who I hired in 2013, when I didn't really know, I always had a therapist. So, I went to traditional therapy, and I truly believe in it. But I didn't really know what a business coach was until I met Jeffrey. And, I worked with him for, over 2 years. And he really helped me understand that a lot of the faults in our business, a lot of the failures in our business, a lot of the oh woe is me's and why aren't things working the way that they're working, is because of past stories that we had. It could be pain that we stuffed down, or um, issues that we have left unresolved. And when I was able to turn the mirror around and kind of look at myself straight on and say, I'm responsible for me. I can't live in the past. I can only control right now and where I'm going. So I think, obviously presently my wife, way in the past, my dad, and obviously when I started getting into the online space, Jeffrey Combs, were three huge influences in my life.
If you could go back 10 years and talk to Scott 10 years ago, what advice would you give him?
Oh my God. So much, because, I was like a different person 10 years ago. God, 10 years ago, my son was just born. He just turned 11. Um, I lived in the mentality of the more that you work, the more that you earn. So when you're in that like trading time for dollars space as a personal trainer. So for me, if my day was booked through from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., I could predict how much money I was going to make. But, the sad thing was I could never go on vacation because there was such anxiety behind it, because, a full week off of work meant a full week off of income. And I would say, the advice I would give to the 10-year ago Scott would be, everything will work itself out in the end. And you have to kind of go through it and grow through it and come out better on the other side. And nothing is forever. So where I was then compared to where I am now, even though it was a huge shift in the last 10 years, everything's possible. And I never gave up hope. I always believed in myself. I always saw the lighter side of the situation. I was always a half glass full type of person. And I always found a way to put a smile on my face. And I think that's what really helped continuing to have me drive forward and never give up on my goals, my dreams, my business aspirations, and obviously where I am today.
Okay. Wi-Fi got really wonky there. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything was still going. It was just your screen was
My face
frozen.
went like this. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yes, I'll cut this out, but it's a half day of school and everybody just walked in. So I think all the tablets got turned on at exactly the same time. But I'll edit that out. So, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. So, this has been to me a really interesting conversation. You have your own coaching group. You have some free Facebook groups as well, if I remember correctly. What are the best ways for people to reach out to you if they're like, man, I love Scott's message. I really want to learn more and I really want to grow?
Yeah, obviously, my personal website is scottaaron.net. I actually have a free download on the main homepage of my website. It helps you, 6 steps to optimizing your LinkedIn profile, which is kind of like the first place of where you want to begin and really optimizing the time that you're going to spend on there. My company website that I own with my wife, our company is called The Time to Grow. So you can just go to thetimetogrowcom and you can find out everything more there. If you just Google Scott Aaron LinkedIn, you'll find my YouTube channel, you'll find Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, obviously. And I'd love to connect. I mean, that's networking is a part of my business persona. I love meeting new people. I love hearing what people are doing and how we can serve one another and help everybody win. I think that's one of my big motivating and driving factors is that it's not about my success. I love hearing the stories that other people share of the success that they have, whether it's working with us or not. I just love hearing people win because there is so much abundance out there. And I just want the best for every single person to live the life that they want to, because again, each day we get the ability to create new adventures and new memories and new things that obviously last a lifetime that can be shared with so many people around us.
I love it. I wrote down some notes. So for those of you who are listening a long time, you know that I love writing my notes. But I enjoyed how you talked about how you really wanted to expand, and you found that certain platforms wasn't going to allow you to expand professionally, but LinkedIn was the only one that had a presence from all Fortune 500 companies, and that people really go there to learn and grow versus just like, here's a picture of my favorite, meal, right? And you talked about how one of your clients in 18 months to about 2 years generated an extra 3 million in revenue based on the practices that you put to help them put in place a true brick and mortar business that they had on the online space, and being able to drive that revenue is super exciting to hear about. You also talked about how if you think you know everything, you know nothing. And so as a leader, being open to continuing to learn not only about your business, but also the people on your team is what's going to allow you to continue to level up within your career, and that you have that responsibility to keep learning. If you stop and you stall out, you're not going to continue to move past whatever that story you're telling yourself or issues that you might have. You've got to be able to break free from that. And that really that big pivot for you 10 years ago was to be able to say, man, I've got to, you're trading your time for your dollars, and how you could actually be way more effective in, your income, so that you could actually have that free time to spend the time with the family, to grow those personal relationships. So I loved this time together, Scott. Thank you so much for spending your time with the Might in Motion community. I really appreciate it.
Well, Mariana, always a pleasure to connect with people, and just grateful to be here. And I hope everyone took at least something away from this. And again, we have the power and the potential to create and achieve anything that we want if we believe it. And I hope people took that away from today's episode.
Thank you for tuning into Might in Motion. If you learned something about motivation, momentum, mindfulness, or might, please like, comment, and share. Thank you.